Hypnotized, I don't know why she got me feeling this way. She's got a way about her. She's got a way about her.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, my name's Alexa Ray. And welcome to another video. I'm so glad you're here and I'm so glad you clicked on today's video. We just got back from vacation about a week ago and I got very sick. Bear with me in today's video because your girl is not feeling that great. But I still wanted to sit down and talk to you guys today about the 12 books. The 12 books I read in the month of March, and it's so funny because I remember filming my March TBR like a few weeks ago. I was like, I don't know if March is gonna be a really big reading month for me because we're going on vacation and we have just a lot of things going on in the month of March. So I was like, there's no way March is going to be like a huge reading month for me. March is just my month, I think, because I read 12 books in the month of March, and I know to some people that's like not even a lot, or like that's the norm for a lot of you. But for me personally, I read between 5 to 8 books every month because that's just like the type of reader I am. I don't know what came over me this month because I read way more books than I thought I would read, and I also read a lot more books than I had on my TBR. There is one book that I still haven't read. I have started it, but it is a book I've been carrying on since I believe January, maybe February, and for some reason I can't get into it, and I think it's because so many people are talking about it at the moment. But that is Magnolia Parks. I think I've read like a few chapters in this book so far. I'm not getting into it just yet, and I don't know why. I think it's because of this other series I just wrapped up, and we're going to talk about that in a second. It is a series that I have absolutely fallen in love with, and I just don't know what I'm going to do with myself now that I've completed the series, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. But that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. We're going to be talking about all the books I read in the month of March, and I had such an incredible reading month. I had so many 5-star reads, so many 4-star reads, some lower star reads. We'll get to those when we get to them. Overall, March was an incredible reading month for me, and I'm super happy with how it all went. I'm gonna go in order from the first book I read, and then we'll work our way down to the last book I read, which was so good. I can't wait to talk to you guys about this book series. The first book I read in the month of March is Scarred by Emily McIntyre. This is a never after novel, and you guys have probably heard me talk about this series non-stop on my channel because I actually read book 1, which is Hooked, back in the beginning of January, and I was absolutely obsessed with that book. And the chokehold Emily McIntyre has on me right now is just, I don't even know where to begin with this book. This entire book series basically covers fairy tales. Hooked was about Peter Pan, Scarred is about The Lion King, and they're essentially fairy tale reimagining, so they're not retellings. We're not reading about lions and hyenas and stuff like that. We're actually reading about real people in this book. We see all the same characters and names show up in here. We see a lot of the same terms in here. The whole story is just, it really caught me off guard because you essentially are reading about the villains in these stories. The villains are the main characters, so the main character in this book is Scar from The Lion King, and I know what you're thinking. Like, in your mind, you're like, there's no way I would like Scar. And that's what I thought too, until I read this book and I fell head over heels for him. In this book, Scar's name is actually Tristan, and Tristan has a scar going down his face, which is the symbolic connection. He is a prince, and his older brother Michael is set to take the throne soon. I believe their last name is Fossa, so it's Michael and Tristan Fossa, which I thought was really cute. That's another little connection to The Lion King. Michael is set to become king in a few months, and he has to get married, so enter Sarah B, this rebellious heroine. Sarah B comes to the castle to get to know her future husband Michael, and along the way, of course, she runs into Tristan, who's definitely the outcast in the castle, in the kingdom. Everyone looks at him differently compared to Michael, not only because he has a scar going down his face, but he's definitely the rebellious bad boy character in the story. Everyone in the kingdom is definitely scared of him because he does have a little bit of a mean streak in him. nonetheless, that doesn't scare Sarah B away, and because of that, Tristan is immediately caught off guard because he's like, why isn't this girl scared of me? Sarah B has her own plans and reasons for being at the kingdom. She has this entire backstory as to why she has made it to the kingdom and worked so hard to get to where she is. Some of my favorite quotes came out of this book. I was underlining like crazy the entire time. Yeah, I cannot recommend this series enough to you guys. If you're super into fairy tales, if you're into Disney movies, this series is just like, it's honestly just such a good dark romance and easily a 5-star read for me. The next book I read is Throttled by Lauren Asher. This is book 1 in the Dirty Air series, and this tells the story of Maya and Noah. Noah is like an F1 superstar racer. He is the best of the best, and then Maya is the little sister to an up-and-coming F1 driver, and she decides after graduating from college to hop on the road with him and travel along, watch him race. She also starts up a YouTube channel and basically vlogs her experience going on the road with F1 drivers, which I thought was really cute to read about. The tea about this book is Noah and Maya's brother do not get along. They had a little falling out a few months prior, and they just do not like each other. They suddenly are put together on a team. There's a little bit of tension between the two boys because they just do not vibe well together. And then enter Maya, who starts running into Noah all the time and is always at the races because her brother's racing, always in the team meetings, the team rooms. Her and Noah running into each other is just inevitable because she is literally everywhere her brother is and he is everywhere Noah is. So Maya's brother is warning her to stay away from the F1 drivers because they're bad boys. They're not the type of boys that she would like, that want to settle down, have a family and house someday. She is warned many times by her older brother to stay away from all the drivers, but especially Noah Slade, because he is like the biggest playboy out there on the track. So when Maya and Noah start to spark up a little romance, things definitely get crazy and they definitely get messy. Nonetheless, I have to say this was absolutely adorable. A lot of people say that the first book is good, but if you keep going in the series, it just gets so much better. So I definitely plan on continuing on in the series. I believe I rated this, I want to say 3 stars, just because it was a really cute romance, but it's not one that's going to stick in my mind for too long. I think Noah and Maya's relationship was also such a genuine and sweet relationship. Noah was always super respectful and sweet to Maya. It wasn't really toxic. There were no bad toxic moments in this book. It's a fake dating trope. It's a brother's enemy trope. If you're into that stuff, this is such a perfect read for you. I don't believe I've ever read a brother's enemy trope. I actually really enjoyed that trope because the entire time we're watching Maya and Noah sneak around. This was adorable. I definitely recommend. Next up, I read Ricochet by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is an Addicted novel and it's book 2 in the Addicted series. I read book 1, which is Addicted to You, back in like late February. I remember with Addicted to You, I think I rated it like 3 stars, and I enjoyed the story because it's such a different story from what I'm used to reading. It tells a story about 2 addicts who are in love with each other. I couldn't get like super hooked on it and I couldn't get super into it. I still enjoyed it and I moved on to book 2, which is Ricochet. This book basically covers the aftermath of the first book, and we kind of see what happens to the characters after everything kind of blows up in their faces. In this book, we're watching Lily and Lo navigate a long distance relationship, which they have never had to do in their entire lives. They've always been attached at the hip and they've always had each other in arm distance, so trying to navigate a long distance relationship is definitely hard for them. Something I really enjoyed about this one though is that we mostly get an insight into Lily's story and her life overall. I feel like this book definitely covers more of Lily's life and her side of the story instead of both of their sides, which I thought was really interesting. We also get a little bit more insight into Rose and Connor's relationship. We get to meet Daisy and Reich, and their stories are told in the Calloway Sister series, which I cannot wait to get to. After Ricochet comes Addicted for Now, and then I can actually start reading the Calloway Sister series, and I'm so excited because there is something about Connor and Rose that just gets gets me. I think it's because they're definitely giving off a little bit of enemies to lovers, which I absolutely love. And then we also have Daisy and Reich, which is such an interesting couple. I like the idea of them and I can't wait to read about them. I'm also pretty sure there's like an age gap with the both of them too. So I rated this book 4 stars because I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Lily's story. In book 1, Lily definitely annoyed me. I couldn't deal with the choices Lo and Lily were making throughout that story. And I really think that's what the authors were trying to do to readers. They were trying to give them an insight into what it's like to have an addiction, to have an alcohol addiction, to have a sex addiction. And I think they did a really good job at showing us what that's like. So in this book, we do see Lily struggle with her sex addiction, but I think her character development is just so incredible throughout this entire story. And I'm so excited to see what happens in book 3 with Lily and Lo, because I just hear so many good things about book 3 and how they just like become the biggest power couple. The next 3 books I read were all part of a series, and I can't, guys, I can't with the Shatter Me series. I am so addicted to it. So the next book I read was a novella in the Shatter Me series. It was Destroy Me. Then we jumped in to book 2 in the series, which is Unravel Me, and then we jumped back to here to read another novella, which is Fracture Me. So Destroy Me was the first novella I read, and Destroy Me is actually told from the point of view of Warner, which in Shatter Me, I thought he was like the bad guy. I thought he was the villain, and then everyone was rating my comments saying that, no, I'm Team Warner, you're gonna be Team Warner, he's the best. And I was shook because I didn't even know Warner was an option. So I read Destroy Me, which is told from Warner's point of view, and you just get a totally new insight into who Warner is. And I really appreciate these novellas being included in the series because you get such a better understanding of who these boys are and why they do the things they do. It was really cool to see. So Destroy Me was really good. I only rated it, I think, 2 or 3 stars just because Warner was definitely kind of whiny in his little novella. I couldn't get on board with it because from Juliet's point of view, Warner is this ruthless badass, but then in his novella, he's kind of like a baby, which just caught me off guard. That does not mean I didn't enjoy this. I did really enjoy his story and his point of view on everything because it just gave me a better insight into what's going to happen in the future books and how he really feels about Juliet. So I really did enjoy his novella because it's only 100 pages. It's a novella. It's super short. I feel like a 2 or 3 star rating isn't bad. I wasn't expecting anything too crazy out of this, but I feel like it's still needed in the story to get an insight into who Warner is. Then we jumped in to Unravel Me, which is book 2 in the Shatter Me series. This is continuing on the story of Juliet after she arrives at Omega Point. This series literally has me on the roller coaster of my life, okay? I just did not see anything in this story happening. After reading book 1, I just did not see this happening. And I want to say I rated this 5 stars because the story was just so crazy to me. Like, I did not see the events happening in this book coming at all. As I mentioned, this picks up right after Shatter Me. We are seeing how Juliet is adjusting at Omega Point. She is trying to control her power. She's also learning more about her powers and how much strength she has. And then along with that, we're also seeing her and Adam's relationship develop, take a few bumps in the road. We're just kind of watching them adjust together at Omega Point, and wow, it is all I can say. We are essentially watching Juliet really struggle between what she wants and what she should do. I think it's the perfect amount of romance, adventure, and action all packed into one. Going into this series, I was really nervous because I didn't know if I would be super into it because I am a heavy romance reader on my channel. I have to say that I have just been so captivated by this entire series. But after reading Unravel Me, I went right back to the novellas and I read Fracture Me, which is told from Adam's point of view, and I also gave it, I believe, 2 stars. And I have to say, Adam's novella was so frustrating. I actually did not like it at all, and it made me not like Adam, which is weird because in book 1, I was Team Adam all the way. I was totally obsessed with him. Between this book and his novella, it really changed my whole perspective on him because his character character just wasn't doing it for me. I didn't like the choices he made throughout the whole story, and in his novella, I understand the choices he makes, but what really bothers me is that he doesn't bother to go back out for Juliet. He doesn't bother to go get her, and that really made me upset. I was like, who are you? Because the Adam from the first book, I feel like would go after Juliet, and then the Adam in these two just was a totally different person, and I was really disappointed. And I'm so excited to pick up Ignite Me because I hear so many people say that is like the best book in the entire series, and that's when everything kind of starts falling into place. So I am very, very excited. This series is absolutely incredible. If you have not read it and you're looking to get into different reads outside of romance, I highly, highly recommend this because like I said, it's the perfect mix of romance, action, adventure, all bunched into one. I just really, really enjoyed it. It also takes place in a dystopian world, which is super new to me, and I thought that was really interesting. Next up, I read A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and this book changed my entire life. If you guys want to know more about any of these books, definitely go check out previous videos on my channel because I do reading vlogs for every book I read, and I talk about this so much in the vlog I do when I read this book. I have tried to pick up this book so many times for the past 2 years, and I could not get into it. I just was not vibing with it. It was very slow to start up, and I just didn't like it. I finally pushed myself this month to pick this book back up and give it another try, and I'm forever changed. Like, I know I sound so dramatic right now, but this book changed me in such a weird way. It is one of the first fantasy books I have read in such a long time. Like, since I was in middle school, high school, I understand the hype around fantasy now, and especially this series alone. I am so excited to continue on in it, and I'm so excited to continue on in the fantasy genre after reading this book because I am so hooked on it. When I finished this book, I was so upset because I didn't know what to do with myself. Like, I just wanted to be in this world. I wanted to be these characters. It tells the story of a young girl named Feyre. She kills a wolf in the woods, and the story really just takes off from there because it turns out that it wasn't really a wolf she killed. It was actually a fairy. She got into a ton of trouble because it is forbidden for humans to kill fairies or hunt them. So Tamlin, a high fae, came over to Feyre's realm and basically told her like, hey, you did something very bad and now you have to pay for it. Tamlin essentially takes Feyre as his prisoner, takes her back to the spring court with him, and over time she starts to develop feelings for the fairy. She develops feelings for Tamlin. There's a higher fae that is essentially trying to take over all of the courts, and Feyre is sensing this. She's sensing that Tamlin is very stressed out and she wants to do whatever she can to help him. It leads into this crazy series of unfortunate events. Feyre finds herself trying to do whatever she can to save Tamlin and save the courts and save the other fairies. The story is so cool to me because fairies and humans don't like each other. We see how that changes in this story, how Feyre and Tamlin and these other fairies come together and try to save their realm, try to save Feyre's realm. I would love to see this turned into a movie because I think it would be incredible. I loved this. It was 5 stars. Did I say it was 5 stars? So I'm very excited to move on in the series. I hear so many incredible things as you keep going, and Riesland, oh my gosh. Riesland is the high fae of the Night Court, and he makes a deal with Feyre in exchange for some help along her journey with saving the other fairies and the realms. If you're not a heavy fantasy reader, I think this is such a great book to get into fantasy. And although the beginning was so slow for me, it's because the author spent so much time creating this magical, beautiful world for us. I really appreciate it. As soon as the story started to take off, I was so appreciative of the beginning and setting up the world, setting up the story, because I just understood it so much more. And I felt like I was really in it. And it was so good. If you've read this series, comment down below and let me know what you thought about it, because I feel like I haven't heard one bad thing about it. Next up, we have the selection by Kiara Cass. This has been such a highly requested book on my channel for as long as I can remember, honestly. So many of you have recommended me this book and said that it's such a feel-good type of book. So it has been sitting on my shelf for probably over a year now. So we finally picked it up and I'm super happy we did, because I actually really enjoyed this story more than I thought I would. This book definitely gives off Bachelor vibes, and and going into it, I knew that, and I wasn't excited because The Bachelor really isn't my favorite, and I just hate the whole idea and concept of it. So going into this, I was a little discouraged, but I have to say I was very surprised at how the story went and turned out, and I really enjoyed it. This takes place in a dystopian world. I had a little theme going on in the month of March because a lot of the books I read actually took place in dystopian world, which I didn't even notice until I was pulling these books off the shelves for this video. This takes place in a dystopian world, and it tells the story of America's singer. People are divided by classes. The higher the class, I think the poorer you are, and then the lower the class, the richer and better off you are. America is in the 4th class, and she's in love with a boy who is in the 5th class. They can't be together because they are in different classes, and that is something we watch America struggle with throughout the entire story until the selection takes place. Every time a prince comes about and is looking for a wife, 35 girls are selected to go stay at the castle and basically get to date the prince. Just like The Bachelor, we're watching one guy date 35 girls, and America is one of the girls who is selected, and she doesn't want to be there because her heart is somewhere else. It's back home with a boy that she can't be with. Of course, the prince is just drawn to America. Throughout her time staying at the castle, though, they become very good friends with one another, and she essentially starts helping the prince try to find the perfect bride for him. So we watch this friendship play out, and then Aspen suddenly shows up at the castle. He enlisted in the army and is now on duty at the palace. A lot of drama starts to happen, and America is torn between who she wants because she has always been in love with Aspen, but he also treated her really poorly at the end of their relationship, and now she doesn't know what to think of it. And then she has Prince Maxon, who has become such an incredible friend to her. She doesn't know if she should give him a chance or stay with what her heart knows. So we watch America struggle with that throughout the entire story. I am so very happy that I have book 2 and 3 in the series because this kind of left off on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Although the story revolves around America, Aspen, and Prince Maxon, there is like a subplot to it, and it's the fact that there's this rebellion that is trying to take over the kingdom, overthrow the king. We're kind of watching that happen also throughout the story, which I thought was really cool. I'm very excited to move on in the series. I rated this 4 stars. I actually really enjoyed it. A lot of people say that they didn't really enjoy it because they feel like it was a middle school read, and honestly, if I was in middle school, high school, and I read this for the first time, it would have probably been a 5-star read for me. I would have probably been absolutely obsessed with it. I think the fact that I'm reading it now when I'm out of high school and stuff like that, and it's still a 4-star read for me, I feel like it says something. Like, I did really enjoy the story, and I definitely would recommend it to so many people, especially people who don't like spicy reads. This is so perfect for you because there's not really any spice in it. There's also a little action in it. So following that, I read The Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, another dystopian world. I didn't really enjoy this one. I'm just gonna say it right away. I believe I rated this one 2 stars. I feel so bad because I feel like so many people really enjoyed this one. I just wasn't vibing with it, and I don't know if it's because I've read 2 or 3 dystopian books already in March, and going into this one, I was just like, this is boring. I feel like I've read this story over and over again. I only gave it 2 stars because I really didn't connect to the characters. I felt like the characters also weren't connecting to each other. I thought the whole concept of it was good. I just feel like the execution wasn't the best. Like, I think I just wanted more out of this, and it just never was giving me what I wanted. This tells the story of Mare, which I think is really funny because going from the selection to this, in the selection, the girl's name is America Singer and her nickname is Mare, so I thought that was really funny going into this. But this tells the story of Mare. She lives in a dystopian world where people are divided by the color of their blood, reds and silvers. If you're a red, I'm pretty sure you're lower class, and if you're silver, you're the elite class. And basically the reds are there to serve the silvers, and that is just what Mare and her family have always known, until Mare discovers this weird power that she holds that no one has ever seen before. And when the silvers catch word of this, they essentially try to cover it up by bringing Mare into the palace. The Silver King sets Mare up to marry one of his sons, and I think he really does it to cover up this power that he just doesn't understand. So suddenly Mare is thrown into the silver world of royalty. Her world is completely turned upside down, and she has found herself in a little bit of a pickle because she is engaged to marry one son, but she seems to maybe be falling for the other son, and we have ourselves a love triangle. Seems to be the theme of March for me. There's also this rebellion in the middle of it all that Mare finds herself very drawn to. The Silvers have taken away so much from her. She's just sick of it, you know what I mean? And being that she's inside now, she kind of has an advantage to get that revenge. It's a story that just isn't like sticking in my mind. These characters and the storyline isn't something I think about often. I have to say though, I think the plot twist in it was pretty crazy. I do think I might try and reread this book again this year, maybe separate it from other dystopian books I've read, because I do like the idea of it. It's just something always felt like it was really missing for me. There's a lot of action in here and I did enjoy it, but like to an extent. The last 3 books I read in the month of March. These last 3 books have altered my life in ways I never knew. We have the Chestnut Spring series. I'm obsessed with these books, and when I say that, I know you guys are like, Alexa, you're obsessed with every book. Like, you love every book you read. That is very true. I usually love every single book I read, but something about these books have really changed me because I don't know if I can move on from this series. And when I say that, I mean, I don't know when I'll be able to pick up another book, because I am literally just living in this world right now with these characters. I don't want to move on and read another book because I don't want to leave this world that I'm in. This gives me such a feel good, cozy vibe. I feel like the last time I felt this way was when I read Archer's Voice last year, and that is, you guys already know, that is my favorite book of all time. I talk about it nonstop on my channel. It also just brought back like little memories from my childhood that I just never think about anymore. I'm going to try and convince you guys to read this series. Book 1 in the series is flawless. Can we take a moment for these covers? They are absolutely stunning. I'm obsessed with them. The details in these books is just unmatched. This tells the story of Summer and Rhett, the first couple of the Chestnut Spring series that captured my heart and just kept it. Rhett Eaton is a famous bull rider. He's like one of the best of the best. Summer is the daughter of a guy who runs the agency that basically helps Rhett get sponsorships and stuff like that. Rhett is, you know, your typical bad boy. He's very rebellious. He does things he shouldn't be doing. One day he takes it a little bit too far, and the agency is like, you need to get your act together because you're about to lose every single sponsor. To help Rhett get his act together, Summer's dad sends Summer out to stay with Rhett and basically travel with him to keep him in check, to make sure he's going to interviews, saying the right things, and just making sure he is the perfect face so he can keep all the sponsors he has remaining. Going into this, I did not think I was going to like it because I'm like, it's about a bull rider? That's just like that's not really my vibe. And then I read it and I was like, oh, I guess I'm like really into cowboy aesthetic now. This is a small town enemies to lovers trope. This also has a one bed trope. It's so good. Gives you those happy butterflies, those feel good vibes. This whole book covers their relationship and their story. I love this so much. I think the enemies to lovers in this was just absolutely incredible. You really get a sense for these two characters disliking each other so much. It's literally hilarious. After reading this book, I immediately moved on to book 2, which is Heartless. And again, we have another stunning cover. I'm obsessed. This moves on to follow the older brother of Rhett Eaton, who is Cade Eaton. He's a single dad who is running the farm all by himself. The main home is where all the boys grew up with their dad, and the name of the ranch is Wishing Well Ranch because there's a wishing well right out front where their mom used to make wishes with the boys and stuff like that. It's such a cute little backstory. Cade built his own house just down the road from it. The whole family just lives on the ranch together but in their separate homes, and I just think that's so cute. I don't know why, but that just made me so happy when I was reading about it. Absolutely love that idea, and I want to do that now. So Heartless tells the story of Cade, and he is essentially looking for a babysitter for over the summertime because he really needs a babysitter to watch his son and keep him busy all summer while Cade is essentially working on the farm. Enter Willa. Willa is the best friend of Summer, who we briefly meet in book 1. She is such a free spirit, wild person. I absolutely love her vibe. The beginning of the story starts off so funny. The way Cade and Willa meet meet. Their interaction is just one of the funniest interactions I have ever read about. I loved it so much. I love how the author set it up because I just thought it was really funny, and I really feel like it sets the tone for the rest of the story. She agrees to stay at Kate's house all summer and watch after Luke and do a whole bunch of stuff with him. It seems like such a simple storyline. It's another small town enemies to lovers trope, and there's so much more to this story. Again, I love the enemies to lovers aspect in this because I feel like you can really tell that Willa and Cade just don't vibe together. I also love like the relationship between Luke and Willa and Luke and his dad. I just thought it was so sweet and heartwarming. And I also have to say, like, throughout the entire series, you get more attached to all the characters. And that leads us to the last book I read in the month of March, and it is Powerless. This is book 3 in the Chestnut Spring series, and this tells the story of Jasper and Sloane. Jasper is actually not an Eaton boy. He was kind of adopted into the family when he was really young. Sloane is a cousin to the Eaton boys, and for as long as she can remember, she's had the biggest crush on Jasper. Jasper is a little bit older than Sloane, and he's also in the NHL, so he's constantly on the road, constantly traveling, constantly on the ice, so he just doesn't really have time for a relationship or girls in general. But he always goes back to Sloane because Sloane is his person. It's his best friend. It's the girl that's always been there for him since he was a little kid. I love the friends to lovers in this. I thought it was so sweet, and again, it just made my heart so happy. Like, it gave me those happy butterflies. It does still give off very much cowboy vibes. It's just a little bit different because Jasper's a hockey player and Sloane is actually a ballerina. So these were all 5-star reads for me. I highly recommend this series if you're looking for a cozy, feel-good read. Absolutely incredible. Highly recommend, especially if you can get your hands on these new covers. They are so gorgeous. I am obsessed with these. But that is all for all the books I read in the month of March. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun. If you've read any of the books I mentioned in today's video, comment down below what you thought about them, if you liked them, if you disliked them. I didn't think March was going to be this good of a reading month for me, but it was incredible. Not only did I read over 10 books, but we also had so many 5- and 4-star reads, and that just makes me so happy when I find books that I am just absolutely obsessed with, especially the Chestnut Spring series. This totally caught me off guard. Never in a million lifetimes would I think that I would be obsessed with cowboys, cowboy aesthetic, and it totally got me. So hopefully April is just as amazing as March for us, and I am so excited because the weather is finally warming up. I am going to stop rambling because my voice is definitely, it's done. But I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in my next video.